When the house lights go down before a rock concert, I am often the first to shout, "Freebird!"
I don't even own a television. Love Monkey.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books and forlorn love this time around. Because I'm J.W. Friedman.
A man walking alone through the mean streets of media-savvy New York City. I'm Chris Collision.
It's true, and we have a very special guest with us today is Maura Johnston. How are you?
Hi. Well, I'm worse off now that I've read this book, but otherwise I'm doing pretty okay.
Okay, so before we get going, whose fault is this? Because I know it's not mine, and I've taken to enjoying assigning blame. So
yeah, I do think it's my fault. I will say that. So sorry. It just seemed, like a very ripe target for multiple reasons, but I had forgotten just how harrowing it is. Well, I guess there's just a lot going on. You really get a sense of how much culture really hated chick lit and women and a lot of other things in this touching story about blue balls and 9/11.
That's exactly what it is. And the book we're talking about is entitled Love Monkey, a Novel by Kyle Smith. And I think, as we pointed out in previous episodes, you always know a book is good when it tells you it's a book right on the cover.
Right. Yeah, don't get this mistaken. This is not a work of, anthropological exploration of the love monkey that you've heard so much about. No, it's just a novel. So don't get it twisted.
So, Maura, how did you first come into contact with this?
Well, in the mid-2000s, this book became a TV show called Love Monkey. But the thing about the book is that it's about a guy who works at a newspaper that is definitely the New York Post, which was one of Kyle Smith's previous employers, and it got shifted to being a sitcom about the music industry, starring Tom Cavanaugh and Judy Greer's in it, and Jason Priestley, and Yeah, and it was one of those shows that premiered when I just started music blogging full time, and so it was kind of a thing where it was like, haha, this is a funny show that's also terrible about the music industry because it was about like what guys really think, and I'm using like giant air quotes there. And it got canceled after 3 episodes, and then got resuscitated on VH1. So you can see its episodes on YouTube, but the book that it was based on, came out a couple of years before that and was very much a publishing sensation, probably because I feel like writers love nothing more than reading about their own business, and so they'll wildly overpraise things that, manage to paint the journalism business in even somewhat correct light.
It's sort of like,
because I was reading the reviews of this book and they're so positive, and I'm just like, did I read a different book? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like how you can make any movie about Hollywood and everyone will love it, and it'll get lots of awards because film people love films about film. Same dynamic, I guess.
I mean, there's the old chestnut about rock critics liking Elvis Costello more than David Lee Roth because rock critics all look like Elvis Costello. And this is definitely,
I think it was David Lee Roth who said that, actually.
I think it was Roth. It's at least attributed to David Lee Roth, and I want to believe so badly that David Lee Roth said that.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so we're dancing around it, but we should get right in there because while this book is sort of about rock journalism, there's more to it than that. So let's go ahead and do a plot in 60 seconds.
Nobody knows if you win it or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot is 60 seconds.
All right. So we like to defer to the guests if they're ready and willing. So if you think you can summarize this tale of a modern-day warrior with a mean stride in 60 seconds or less, do you want to give it a go?
Sure.
Okay, ready, go.
Tom Farrell is an editor and rewrite man for Tabloid, the totally not the New York Post, New York newspaper that revels in being sort of bottom-feeding on the culture of journalism in New York. And he winds up falling really hard for a coworker of his, Julia, who is 10 years younger than him and who has a boyfriend. And he's the type of guy who quotes Bob Dylan lyrics to himself in order to seem deep, and also thinks OK Computer would be really good sex music. And the book is basically about how he keeps trying to have sex with somebody, anybody, and how he thinks about women as objects, but in kind of a weird, sensitive bro way. And then 9/11 happens and changes everything. But not really, because he still wants to get laid. And the book just kind of ends with him getting a better job.
Okay, you're right.
That pretty much sums it up.
Right in there, too, I think. Well, we'll find out when editing happens, because we don't actually keep track live. Surprise. Peeling back the curtain a little bit. No, that's pretty much it. This is the tale of a schlubby man trying to get laid and saying horrible things about women and other men and pretty much everyone who isn't him. And it bummed me out more than anything I've read for the show, I think, since Super Sad True Love Story, which is saying a lot. This book is inherently a bummer, and not through any function of the actual writing, just because of what it's about and how cynical its view on the world is. And
I agree almost entirely with that, but I don't want to let the writing off the hook. So let's just put a pin in that to come back to whether or not the writing is as awful as the worldview. I want to commend both of you, though. You both have gotten so deep into your references and your like awareness of this thing. I was just like throughout. Who asked for high fidelity but worse? Who asked for bad Woody Allen but with a Gentile?
Yeah,
you know?
And throughout this book, the way he describes himself, I mean, he's self-effacing in, a way that you're supposed to find charming, but he ends up really coming off like John Lovitz's character from The Critic, but as an actual human being. And so what you're kind of reading is that character trying to get laid and talking a lot about cleavage and thongs.
That's wildly accurate. I hadn't realized till you said that was basically my mental image of the guy talking. And I don't think he's supposed to be as alternative in appearance as Mr. Lovitz's cartoon in The Critic, but...
Well, also, I mean, I feel like your high fidelity point, Collision, was a good one, because throughout the book, there are all these kinds of like little lists scattered, and it's clearly an homage to High Fidelity. I mean, he even like references that book at one point, but it kind of doesn't go anywhere, and it just is this weird sort of, structure that I think got abandoned midway through the writing, and certainly if even there was editing through, at the beginning of the editing. And it's just this very sort of like rancid view of like kind of a guy who, if he wasn't so concerned with what other people thought of him being somebody with good taste, would totally have been into like Limp Bizkit in the time period that he describes, which is like, the summer of 2011, because 2001 rather, because like the whole thing is just he has so much contempt for everyone around him, including himself, but especially the women who won't have sex with him. And I guess, reading this now in the context of, the post-Weinstein everything, it really kind of shines a light on just the casual attitudes toward women and their utility, I guess, that pervaded and probably still pervade media. And I should note, Kyle is now a writer. He's a writer for the National Review now. So I guess that's where you go.
Really?
Romana Clay that turns into a failed sitcom doesn't really lead to anything.
Yeah, I think at the time this came out, he was working for People, which surprised me.
Yeah, he was working for People. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, you're right on point. I mean, it's especially chilling in the context of modern events for sure. That one of the first notes I had is it's terrifying that there must be men who really think this way. And it should be mentioned, we read this book about a month ago, I would say, because there were some scheduling conflicts and yada yada. And so the events of the following month have really served to illustrate that, yes, there are a lot of them. And when they write books, it's really bad.
Yeah, I don't think we glossed over it a little bit, and I don't think we'll talk much about it because it doesn't deserve to be talked about much. But I think everything you need to know about this book is that it's a high-fidelity knockoff set in New York in 2001 from summer to winter. Yes, 9/11 happens, and it's basically a page-and-a-half blip, and then he gets back to the really important thing, which is whether or not he can get his 10 years younger than him coworker to break up with her boyfriend and be his girlfriend instead.
In a post-9/11 world.
In a post-9/11 world. And it's just like so tone-deaf and clueless. Like, you could solve this problem really easily. Move the dates back 1 year, sport. Then you don't look like the cluelessest asshole who ever lived. Like, have all the editors died?
Well, and I feel like, that this point that you're making is going to be the type of point that if he hears this, which if he does hear this, sorry, but not really. But like, if he hears this, he'll be like, it's satire. I'm just like being self-deprecating. It's like, no, dude, like, there's self-deprecating, and then there's really letting too much of like your ass hang out while you're, being real. And just some of the asides in this book, the casual homophobia.
Oh, it's not casual.
The ethnic slurs. I mean, like, it's just, well, you know what I mean, though. It's like, that's not I guess it's not the thrust of the book. It's just sort of like, I'm not gay. Like, there's that one scene where he's talking about going to the gym, and he's like, why do I just go here to make dudes look at me? And it's like, I don't know. Like, what are you trying to say? There's just such a weird Diaryland incoherence to it. Like, if this was a personal blog, even in the Diaryland era, it would have been, roundly mocked.
And appropriately.
Yeah, one of my early notes as well is you could fill out an ism bingo card with this piece of garbage, which I think is pretty true. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of hateful in many, many ways, and in a really casual, unthinking kind of, I mean, the Limp Bizkit point you made earlier, I feel like is really on the nose, because this is like a board shorts bro that would be, like telling you about things he's done to chicks, quote unquote. Yeah.
Okay. First off, Limp Bizkit had moments. Second off, I think this is all.
You're fired.
I think this is probably a good moment for us to start talking about the stuff we liked and stuff we didn't like.
Oh, high points, low points. Here is music.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
And I want to go first.
Okay.
Which never happens.
All right.
But we were just talking about the sort of Diaryland over-confessionalized version. And I just want to say that the one thing, and I don't think he even knows it's in there, that actually rings true for me about this like forced cynicism and like I'm constantly horny hoorah bullshit book. The one thing that rings true is he's really in defeat.
That's so right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The four people who have read this book all just plotzed, and that makes me very happy.
Yeah, I was halfway through taking a sip of beverage and had to stop myself because you're totally right. Not just feet, shoes in particular. There are some very detailed descriptions of women's footwear in this book.
So something I believe was said earlier about how much of your ass you're showing. Well, we're on to you this one, Kyle.
Speaking of how much of your ass you're showing, that seems to be another one of his hang-ups, too. He likes to talk about, because this was written in the early 2000s, he's very enamored with women who wear underwear that is visible above their low-rise jeans. And mentions this many times.
We'll be hearing more about that later. Wink.
All right, Maura, would you like to go next with a high point?
Well, sure. I mean, if you do read this book as satire, it is a very cutting satire of men who think they know a lot about music and who like to lord that over women and anyone else. Like there's that one aside early on where he had he had a woman over and he had the Beach Boys' greatest hits playing. And like there's a parenthetical aside that says, I played it with man-boy sarcasm. It contains both Caroline No and God Only Knows, but Liesl doesn't seem to notice my point. It's like that AOL Instant Messenger away message, passive aggressive, but with like Bob Dylan and the Beastie and the Beach Boys, and Radiohead too. And it's just very, sort of a really great self-own as far as those dudes. Because I didn't like I thought the High Fidelity the book was okay. I hated the movie, and like I feel like it's kind of a really nice indictment of that attitude where men who don't think that they can communicate at through sentences that are spoken try to glom their self ideals onto poetry written by others years in the past. And so that the perhaps unintentional, I'm going to guess probably unintentional because it's delivered with such smugness, caricature of the music loving bro who thinks he can outwit everyone is, I guess, the high point for me.
And just to dive down on this a little bit more, as a self-respecting music nerd, what kind of dipshit tries to own somebody by brandishing their good taste with a greatest hits album?
That's a great point.
Seriously,
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's not where the deep cuts are at, my man.
Yeah, that's
right.
True. You're never going to find Brian Wilson's rap song Smart Girls on that record. Don't Google it unless you want to get really depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I guess my first high point is, I think, kind of similar to what Maura was just talking about, in that like there is kind of this element of kind of a satirical character that if you are willing to believe that this is a fictional character, he kind of comes off like an Ignatius Riley type almost, but far suaver in a very 90s swingers kind of way. There's also, he goes on a few dates with a woman named Julia, and I think that those sections like really kind of capture the uncertainty of like a budding romance where he's kind of like flipping out, like worried that she hasn't called him back on time and things like that. And I thought that was pretty convincing and true to the character. And once again, it really kind of depends on how willing you are to believe that this is a fictional character and not a memoir. And I don't know exactly where I land on that, except the cover of the book did tell me it was a novel. So for the sake of the high point, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that, yeah, moments like that are pretty effective portrayal of this kind of neurotic, worrying type character, which I totally wouldn't know about from personal experience or anything.
Well, that was bracing, but I think it's time we now turn our attentions to the things that are no longer pleasing us. It's time to get low.
Yeah, well, let's maintain the same order, Collision, so why don't you start us off with a low point?
So I'm going to try to hang to an actual point for a change. There is a conversation he's having where he makes a very brief series of jokes about porn parodies based on Bob Dylan records. And his jokes are the following: forever hung, blonde on blonde on blonde, blowjobs in the wind. Now, the thing is that made me angry about this and that made this a low point is there's actually like fruit to be plucked from the idea of porn parodies based on Dylan. You've got Banging It All Back Home, Highway 69 Revisited, you could actually make jokes based on this. Instead, this is like the laziest bullshit ever,
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I agree. Blonde on blonde works just fine without adding the extra blonde as well.
That also would have been legitimately funnier if they just left it blonde on blonde.
Yeah, respect the source material, my man.
Yeah.
Okay, Maura, low point.
Well, I already mentioned the part about OK Computer being good sex music, which is pretty much like the lowest point for me.
Which I just opened up my notes and it's highlighted. That was the first thing that just jumped out at me was on my headphones. I'm revving for the challenge. Radiohead's OK Computer. This would be really hot sex music.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just, the kind of manner in which I think what he was going for with all the parts about the friend of his whose wife had a baby, I feel like that was probably inspired by the sort of "you gotta see the baby" bit from Seinfeld. That this is clearly also very much in a post Seinfeld novel, but it's just delivered with such like kind of rancid, uselessness, and I guess like that sort of opens a lens on the character of this guy as a whole, because it's just this kind of thing where he has no inner life. And I'm not a guy. I know that. I'm not a guy. So maybe but I have to think that, like men have maybe somewhat more of an inner life than what is being portrayed here. I hope so, right?
Nah.
It's pretty much sports, lists, cartoons,
sex, red meat.
Yeah.
Red meat.
Jockeying for position at work.
They do go to a lot of French restaurants and wine too.
Yeah, well, that's how you know you're a sophisticated man of the 21st century. Although Brian Bosworth was quite proud of his wine knowledge as well. So I don't know that. I mean, I feel like that's like a Grey Poupon sort of thing. That's implying that you're manly, but you're still civilized.
Manly enough to be sophisticated.
Yeah, so for my first low point, I'm just going to go right there. This book is filled with casual racism and homophobia and every other bad thing on the planet. And to the point where there are lines like, and I just want to read this out loud because it's rare, as a Jewish American, generally when you're reading books that are written in this style, the narrator and the author are almost always Jewish men. So it's very strange to be reading something about this guy who's self-described as this schlub who's feeling very sorry for himself and is very neurotic and has this Alvy Hall kind of personality. So, I just got the name wrong. It's Alvy Singer, isn't it? Either way, whatever. But then to read things like, her boyfriend's a Jew. He's probably pretty smart and funny, and his dad was probably a cardiothoracic surgeon instead of an air conditioner repairman. Okay, couple things I want to point out here. I am a Jew. My Jewish father was an air conditioning repairman.
What?
So fuck you, Kyle Smith.
Wow. But it doesn't stop there. I've got a couple others highlighted that I think would be useful here. Is this how people ask each other out in the hood? So much simpler. On the other hand, if I were black, I'd get no dates at all. I don't even know what that fucking means, but it's not extremely cool.
Yeah, he describes a black man as a gorilla at one point. It's pretty horrible. Yeah, so anyway.
Waitresses are the royalty of this town. They're great looking, they're dumb enough to be inbred, and then I stopped highlighting.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, and
I'm sure it only got worse.
Oh, so are we getting into the sexism too? Because I have highlighted from his top 10 favorite things then and now, where then was like, Empire Strikes Back and More Than a Feeling by Boston. And number 2 on now is Getting a Blowjob. But the parenthetical is where it really gets... Used to be number 1, but let's face it, girls these days are giving them away like sticks of Dentyne or Big Red. There's a potential new product. Give your breath long-lasting freshness with Big Head. And that points to another part of the book that is really kind of terrible, which is like, this guy doesn't know when to quit. Like, I teach writing, and I always teach the kind of like Coco Chanel approach to accessorizing, which is like before you leave the house or before you send your draft into your editor, look it over and take one thing off. He needs to like take off like all of his pieces of flair and like his earring and his pinky ring and like, I don't know, his toe ring because he's so into feet. Like it's just so, there's just so much like extraness in this book. Speaking of gum. There's just so much.
Everything is over the top. Nothing stops when it should.
It's which is supposed to be. I mean, it's all deliberate. We should give him at least credit for that. But it's just such like lazily Fozzie Bear level delivered bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who are deliberately annoying. They're still annoying.
Sitting right here.
So, do you have, I mean, I feel like that counts as a low point, right? So we should probably go around the horn one more time. Oh my God. Now that we've done the Brian Bosworth episode, I can't stop saying around the horn. Around the table one more time. So collision, another low point.
Another low point. Okay. Again, I'm going to keep it specific and I'm not going to provide any details, but there is an actual scene of panty sniffing in this book. And I didn't need that.
Yeah, that was a little disturbing. Once again, I think showing a little too much of his ass, much like the bethong into women, of which he is enamored. There's a lot of, for me, I guess this kind of hovers between a low point and a high point, but I'm just going to call it a low point because from an actual factual analysis, this is bad stuff. This book is filled with hilarious, like, dated ways to describe attractive women. Like, oh man, where did it go? Yet even here, there are many fabulous babes. To the point where at times I felt like I was listening to Ted from Bill and Ted. Like, yet even here, Bill, there are many fabulous babes. So there's a lot of that. You know, he's just dancing on the edge of bodacious tatas at any point in this book, and yeah, so that's a low point, I guess, is if you're going to try to write a book about kind of the modern single man experience of just, you know, just not understanding women or whatever, you might want to use more modern slang than stuff that sounds like Tex Avery cartoon stuff. So, yeah, that's my low point. Maura.
Well, there's also a lot of weird stuff about getting women drunk.
Yeah.
And trying to sort of, you know, insinuate one's way into their lusciously described underwear there. You know, like there's one where there's an aside where he says, like, never be with a woman who can pass a breathalyzer test.
Oh, yeah.
There's a part where he's talking to his friend Shooter, who we haven't even gotten into Shooter yet. Shooter is the raconteur, rich dude whose, like, family is literally the coleslaw king of America. And he's always sort of there to spout some crazy monologue that was probably lifted from, like, an early galley of Neil Strauss's The Game.
Exactly.
And at one point, they're at a restaurant drinking, and he says, I'm just going to read this part. So there's this girl, I say again, as the waiter starts sweatily decorking a second bottle of Bordeaux. I tell him the story of the weekend of my discontent, editing for embarrassing details. He had to go to Connecticut to watch a dance performance by Julia, the younger coworker, and her boyfriend was there, and he kept obsessing about, like, hearing him and Julia and Dwayne have sex, even though it's like the shoebox house that she grew up in, where the walls are paper thin. Which you'd think, you know, if he's such a savvy dude, he'd probably realize that if she was having sex, like, she would probably figure out a way to not do it under her parents' noses. Anyway, so back to the great dialogue. What's your next move, he says. Don't know. Hang around her some more, I say. Maybe familiarity breeds consent?
Oh. Gross.
Yeah, and, like, there's another part where he's talking about, like, making her dinner, and he's like, I'll make her a smoothie before the dinner that we have, and I'll be sure to sneak in an extra shot of rum. And it's just like, okay. I guess, and, you know, again, I think this is, like, a sign of just, like, I mean, even though the last, you know, a year, pretty much 18 months have been, like, kind of horrible on, like, the gender relations as they play out in the media. Like, this book is very, very much a signpost of how far things have come, because I don't really see anything like this getting into print and being hailed by female critics, including, like, Janet Maslin of the New York Times today. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally, like, a stretch where he's angry because he accidentally was tricked into thinking a woman had bigger boobs than she turned out to have, and he mentions that. There's a line that says something like, Katie drinks. Katie is small. This is good news. And the only thing that's even close to redeeming from any of it, and it's not close, is he's like, I have to get drunk before a date because I don't have much personality unless I'm drunk. But it's like, number one, that's a really tepid ass insight. And number two, it's wildly outweighed because there's one of those comments in 10 instances of this, like, you keep using the word and I think it's perfect, rancid approach to human interactions.
Okay, well, now we need to try to think of one more round of positive things to say about this.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I'm going to start off, if you don't mind. And
Yeah.
I hope this doesn't squash either of yours because I feel like this is a very obvious high point. But this book at least ends with the dope that's the narrator miserable and unfulfilled. So at least it doesn't end with him getting the object of his affection on his side and all of his shitty machinations working. It just ends with a miserable dude still single and miserable. So I took that as a high point because at least he doesn't have an arc where he ends up heroic and triumphant at the end. He's just the same sad sack piece of shit he was at the beginning. So that's mine. Maura, how about you?
It was short. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess the depiction of journalism at least was interesting, if only because I was thinking a lot about who the sort of foppish, always drunk reporter for whom the protagonist Tom has to write like his movie review of Training Day at one point. And I was guessing it was Steve Dunleavy who was at the Post forever, and who was like famously always drunk, but I don't know. So I guess like that part was interesting. And I think I always think it's interesting to read books or consume any sort of media that is set in the pre-ubiquitous smartphone era, because there are certain dramatic tensions that probably would be a lot more improbable in 2017 that are very possible in the 2001 milieu of the book.
For sure. Collision.
Yeah, mine was real close to that, unsurprisingly, because it is, not only the least objectionable thing about the book, but by far the most interesting. I did like some of the newsroom scenes. I thought the atmosphere was really nicely kind of sketched. The plot with respect to his job is infuriating, because he could just continually fails upwards in a unsatisfying way.
Yeah.
But again, the atmosphere and some of the characterization I really liked. I should note, though, that I am a complete sucker for that. I've mentioned this on the show before, but like the Ron Howard movie, The Paper, is to me like a solid A-, great entertaining.
Oh, I love that movie. That movie's great.
I agree with you, but I think that, we're a small tribe on this one.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it, so yeah.
Oh man, it's like this, but slightly smarter and infinitely more likable.
Well, that neither of those are hard.
Yeah.
So, congrats on clearing that bar, I suppose.
But yeah, The Paper rules. It's early Marissa Tomei, Michael Keaton.
Yep. Both of you at the same time.
Yep.
I do want to say just this book does have an element of horror to it. There's a scene where our hero is cooking dinner for a woman he's trying to impress, and he puts a steak on a Foreman grill, which made my skin crawl. Anyway, that's just me being snobby.
That's a couple pages away from one of the many moments where I had to put the book down and go do literally anything else, where he questions whether or not napkin rings are necessary and concludes that they are not necessary because they are, yep, you guessed it, gay.
Wow.
Before we go to break, I just want to see if anybody has anything else they briefly want to mention, get off their chest before we move into our game segments, because I did just want to personally, I'm scrolling through my notes, a lot of which were kind of stream of consciousness, and one of them is, no, you do not get to use 9/11 for cheap gravitas in your romance novel for caveman Dave traders. So,
Yeah.
just curious if anyone else has any notes they want to air out.
I did think it was funny that he called what's obviously the Fox News channel the argument channel.
Uh-huh.
That was, funny, I guess, sort of. But again, like, it's also annoying that, like, he is so just average, and then he gets this, sort of job offer ex machina, where the editor of the Daily News is like, well, we'll give you a ton of money, and it's just like, okay. And then the counter offer is $10,000 in expenses that are repaid in cash. So essentially, like, $10,000 under the table, which, I mean, he's not that good. I read the Training Day review that's in the book. It's not that good. Come on.
There's a sex scene that ends with our ostensible hero asking, "Did you?" Which that made me laugh and shudder at the same time.
That was cute. One of the things, and this is just kind of a personal thing, but there's this long, like, page and a half rant about his disdain for public defenders. Which I thought was real out of place. And even in a book filled with egregious politics and kind of not self-aware, but certainly aggrandizingly egregious politics, that really stuck out to me as particularly inane and annoying.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we'll get to, spoiler, in Dramatic Readings, he has an interesting view on the poor and disenfranchised anyway. So I guess this probably is a good time to take a break, and then we'll come back and do some of these things to which I've been alluding. So did you like my sentence structure?
I did.
All right. Stick around. We'll be right back.
She was swinging up and down on the side, eating with her hands and looking so fine. You could be my Tarzan, I could be your Jane. You could be my Tarzan, I could be your Jane.
Oh boy, welcome back. We've been monkeying around, haha, and now we're going to get to the part that you all love. That was a strenuous segue into the game section, but I want to start out with the most exciting podcast segment in the history of podcasting and pretending to like sushi to impress women, which also happens in this book. This is Dramatic Readings.
Dramatic readings, we're gonna make it sound recorded. Dramatic readings, yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so Dramatic Readings, we're going to take pieces of this book and read them to you. We like to start out with our guests when possible. Maura, do you have something picked out?
Sure. I feel like this section has it all. Okay, let's
All
just
right.
get started. Wow, she said as she entered my apartment, which had actually been pretty clean half an hour prior. Now it looked like a food processor had exploded. Just as long as you didn't go to any trouble. Cue sheepish grin. That's when she handed me the flowers. Thanks for these, I said. What the hell was I supposed to do with flowers? Do you have a vase? She said, and I should note that it's spelled V-A-H-Z.
Yes.
No, I didn't have a vase. What kind of guy owns a vase? Got something better, I said, rummaging in the cabinet. This'll be perfect. Such taste, she said, and plunked them in an 8-inch high Pilsner glass, reading, Panama City, Spring Break 1989. If you're not wasted, the weekend is. She put some water in them and put the flowers on the windowsill. The salad, the steaks, the tortellini. I was a sweaty mess the entire meal, dashing madly back and forth from my 2-seater dining table to the spattered stove. I don't really have enough plates for a gathering of more than one. I spent half the meal frantically washing things. She picked listlessly at my feast, ate 1/6 of the steak. This, I thought, must be what it's like to be a mom. Sorry, she said, catching my look. I was pretty much full after the smoothie. Did you save room for dessert? Of course, she said. As I was getting dessert, she picked out a CD. Hey, she said, automatic for the people. Great disc, I said, slightly disappointed. Why didn't she suggest Murmur? I picked up my napkin and... Shit. That goddamn price tag. Surreptitiously, I peeled it off under the table, as though this would make the price tag on hers disappear. So, I said, giving her my smiliest smile as she sat down. You all right? She said. Try this wine, I said, pouring her a big glass. I really didn't expect all this, she said. New placemats? Really? These old things? I said. Family heirloom. Passed down by my granddaddy, Ezekiel Farrell. When we were done, I shooed her away from the dish Everest in the sink. Yep, there they were, pretty much every dish I own, and sat on the couch, swirling a glass of wine. She went back to the table and just peered at me from 3 feet away, 3 miles. And we talked about R.E.M. for a while, and The Cure, and Radiohead, and Nick Drake. And why wasn't she coming over to sit next to me? Come here, I said. Shooters say, do not ask, tell. She came over. I kissed her some more. Something in the kitchen crashed extravagantly. She flinched. The maid will get that, I said. Got my hands on her waist, up under her shirt, with ideas. She stopped me. Double elbow slam on my hands. Girl kung fu. Grr, she said, ducking and pressing her head to my chest. We sat for a while hugging. Not long enough. She oozed away. I really have to go, she said. It was 9:30. Michael say, everybody hurts sometime.
Oh, God. Also, I'm just looking for a woman that oozes.
That oozes off my couch.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Really, he really knows how to, set that sexy mood.
There's a real 40-year-old virgin kind of element to that scene in particular where, like, I don't know. I loved it. How clumsy he is when he actually starts talking about sex. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it always just comes off as like, and then I saw her boobs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Bodacious.
Okay, so I will go next. I'm going to do a piece here that I think kind of illustrates this book's class consciousness. It's brief, so forgive me. But this is our protagonist making his way past Sloan Kettering, the cancer hospital. I have to walk by Sloan Kettering, the cancer hospital across the street. There's a homeless woman. Well, not homeless exactly. She appears to be a permanent resident of a cement overhang, an alcove tenant. She's just lying there completely prone, facing the building. Her pants are pulled down so as to expose her mottled, blue cheesy haunches. Kiss my ass, world. It must suck to be living outside a cancer hospital. Then again, better to be outside than inside. On the street, a woman walks by. She's missing her left arm. These are people who truly have cause to be miserable. And are they? Well, yes, they certainly appear to be. I, on the other hand, have absolutely no reason whatsoever to be miserable. Yet I am, which in turn makes me even more miserable. Plus now, the misery comes with a little garnish of guilt, too. So this is a dude basically describing how a homeless person and an amputee suck for making him feel shitty about feeling sorry for himself. And I think that kind of summarizes where this dude is coming from throughout most of this book.
We forgot even to mention the tiny subplot where one of the girls he tries to kind of get with and fails gets her big break at the New Yorker by going through the garbage of a rapper who's been arrested, who he refers to as, quote, an illiterate criminal from Staten Island. Not because
So which Wu-Tang member do you think he was talking about?
Yeah, and let's just say, if you want to pick an adjective to slur a rapper with, illiterate is probably the wrong one.
Yeah, for sure.
What are these guys mainly known for? Is it perhaps their wordsmithing and intricate use of language? Let's go straight for illiterate.
Yeah. I mean, you could have picked another horribly classist, racist thing to say instead, Mr. Smith.
But instead, let's get sexy, guys.
Oh, all right.
I have decided to put my hand on Julia's ass. I start with the small of her back, all civilized-like, but 3 glasses of wine and a stance within groping distance of the most beautiful girl in the world can play tricks with a man's judgment, and my hand takes all of 3 seconds to work its way down to her left rump. I'm teasing, not squeezing, just running my nails over the cool curve. And I discover 2 very nice things. Bulleted list format 1. Julia is wearing a thong. Bulleted list format 2. Julia is enjoying having her ass stroked in front of the 42nd President of the United States. She's leaning into me, and Clinton is regaling the crowd, so I just keep regaling her ass. She puts her hand on my shoulder and moves in close. Nice. God, her ass is so sweet and round and perfect, and I will never stop stroking it. Until this moment, I never thought I was much of an ass man. What's the big deal? I've got one of those. Now, I just want her ass for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I'm a nice man.
I like to pick 'em. I like to stick 'em.
Yeah.
You know that's getting edited in the minute you say ass man.
Now,
right? Okay.
Now he's an ass man.
Oh goodness. Okay. I guess we should move on. Do you have any other?
I got a couple of tentative games we can try.
Well, let's move from the tentative into the formative and proceed. What's up?
Okay. Well, I kind of wanted to do what is your fave song off OK Computer to get it onto, but it sounds like you guys are not where Kyle and I are on that topic, so maybe we'll skip that. I assume it's the fitter, happier one for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. The one
Totally,
with the robot voice.
Yeah. Let's try. What is your
Nothing
fave?
like getting it onto a computer saying antibiotics.
Here is a song.
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
All right, what is your fave? Collision. Take it away.
So I'm trying to get posy here. This book is basically a one-liner avalanche. You know. If you have one, what is your fave joke one-liner?
Give me a second. Yeah, this is tough. I got nothing.
I could give you one. Maybe it'll prime the pump a little bit.
Okay.
When it comes to sexual authority, she's General Patton, in complete command of my privates.
Oh, shut up.
Boo.
How about,
Well,
all right, you, Mar, go ahead.
yeah. Just having some friends for dinner, I say. Yeah. Dinty Moore, Uncle Ben, and Sarah Lee.
Oh, boy. Later on, he refers to Little Debbie as a slut, by the way.
Yes.
Who takes shots at Little Debbie, man?
Yeah, seriously, dude. Don't you like those devil dogs? Yeah, I guess for me, and this is, I just randomly flipped to a page and found the least offensive one, because there are like 3 of these per page, but most of them are like really hateful. But I did kind of like this. This is once again describing his apartment after he has failed to make dinner. By the way, wanted to mention, a man who cooks a steak on a Foreman grill with tortellini does not reserve the license to then go swirl wine on his couch. I just wanted to say.
And a smoothie beforehand?
Yeah. But it does say that the preparation, as for the apartment, well, normally it has a lived-in look. At the moment, it has a died-in look. That's kind of funny. So, yeah.
There's one early after so this date in the chronology of the book has left him broken, and I think he goes to work the next day very early in the book, and people are like, "You look like shit." And he's reflecting on his weekend. He refers to his apartment as a maximum insecurity facility, which is
That's kind of clever.
Okay, that's okay. I want to actually talk about this weird thing that I was reading, and he's describing being really sad and listening to the radio, and how in that moment, all the songs are really sappy and they hit you really hard because they're all about love gone wrong. And I was like, wait a minute. This is a straight up bite from a stand-up comedian that I saw in like the mid to late 80s. I can't remember his name. He actually took his own life a couple of years ago, but he was this guy who was very funny, and it was just Richard Jenny, that was his name.
Oh, yeah.
And he had this famous riff about, like, when you're sad, every radio station is love songs, 24/7 love songs.
That's true. I do. I remember that, seeing that routine too, like on Comic Relief or something.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Exactly. Back when there were like 2 separate channels devoted to showing guys standing in front of brick walls 24 hours a day.
A brick wall reference.
Oh my God. I think we just turned into Kyle Smith for a second.
Oh no. I think you're right. Hey, remember when there was stand-up comedy on TV all the time, and women were women? Am I right?
Yeah.
Before they got those big shoulder pads, which
he's also obsessed with.
Yeah.
He brings them up multiple times.
I think maybe he just doesn't have the biggest, broadest shoulders in the world.
Or maybe he's just a huge Paula Poundstone fan.
You know, maybe, and he probably watched like Rosie O'Donnell hosting the half-hour comedy hour on VH1.
Yeah. I have a minor what is your fave myself, and it's what is your fave shooter rant or tip? Because shooter, as mentioned very briefly earlier, functions as kind of an outtake from Neil Strauss's The Game. Thank you for that, Maura.
Yeah.
And
You're welcome.
Frequently he's just talking about the battle of the sexes or what women really want. So I'll go first. My favorite shooter rant is when he's talking about fashion and why we're a decadent society, because we're the first advanced civilization to be completely controlled by women. What are you wearing? Huh? Black pants, gray shirt, black shoes. Why? I don't know. Trying to look somewhat cool? Exactly, Shooter says. It's 85 degrees out, yet you think black is cool. Why is black cool? Because women think it hides their fat. And then he goes on to talk about shoulder pads, and men do all the work so they can have the money so women can spend it at Saks Fifth Avenue on $1,500 handbags, and this is how society works. So that's my favorite shooter rant. I feel like I've now summed up the worldview of, I don't know, maybe the worst sitcom character to ever exist.
Well, I just keep thinking of the setup that Shooter sort of facilitated while Tom is on a date with Julia at a restaurant. They're at a Mexican restaurant, and all of a sudden, it's one of those Mexican restaurants restaurants in the early 2000s in New York. A lot of them had like paper tablecloths and crayons that you could draw on the tablecloth with, and so these guys start sort of like ragging on the drawings that Julia and Tom are doing. And it turns out that Shooter has sort of like masterminded the whole conflict to make Tom look like a tough guy in front of Julia. And Tom is complaining to Shooter about the setup and goes, you don't think it looked a little ridiculous, me offering to take on 2 guys my size plus King Kong over there? And then he goes, I thought he'd be perfect, says Shooter. Look at him. The man exudes Wall Street dickhead. Christ, he even went to Florida State. Florida, the hug corrects him.
Okay.
It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, first of all,
that's like, you know, that was. But yeah, that whole scene is just like, what? You know?
Yeah, I mean, A, go Gators. B, that is straight up sociopathic bullshit.
It's
like,
also,
he hires dudes to pretend to get in a fight with him.
It's just such a fake-ass rom-com bullshit thing. I mean, like, fundamentally, this is like a rom-com where both completely fail at their mission. And yeah, that is one of the falsest notes in a wildly inauthentic reading experience.
Yeah, it definitely comes across as a shitty movie scene more than something that you should be reading in a novel written by an adult.
Yeah.
Well, have you guys ever seen the movie Whipped? Did either of you see that movie? It came out in like 2001. It's Amanda Peet, and she's the sort of object of desire of a bunch of bros who are friends. I kept flashing back to this movie while reading this book because that movie is set in 2001. My one Rotten Tomatoes citation is a review of Whip that I had to write for a job that I was at in the early 2000s. And I hated that movie. Like, its big set piece is when somebody drops a chrome dildo into a toilet. But it's just this kind of like rancid view of everybody and how everybody was just like, all they want to do is get laid. And I'm like, man, like, I know that we're all animals at heart, but at the same time, who are you trying to appeal to here? Are you trying to appeal to the people who think that they're better than everyone else, or the people who are these people, or just like, are you trying to appeal to your like narcissistic insecurity that's living within you? You know, it's just this boggling thing.
I mean, if your movie can be, you know, distilled down to a Bloodhound Gang quote, your movie's probably not that good. And if your whole movie's premise boils down to you and me ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do it on the Discovery Channel, you're not doing great.
I don't know.
And the Discovery Channel has way better writing.
It does.
That's actually true.
Yeah. I was just thinking of like the endless like cavalcade of American Pie sequels that no one watched. Like, I feel like this is kind of what if that was for adults, and that's not a pleasant vibe to get. Yeah. Nobody fucks a pie, but
American Pie, if Porky's was a little over your head, have we got a franchise for you?
But then there were like 10 of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, Eugene Levy needs work, man.
It's true.
So I dug deep and found my favorite shooter say moments because a lot of these are presented as little epigraphs.
Yeah.
But this one is not that, and it goes like this. Mike puts the radio down and plugs it in. It's tuned to the FM station for people who iron their jeans. That's actually a pretty good joke. The radio, the most overplayed song since that annoying Sheryl Crow tune about the dude peeling the labels off his bottle of Bud. I love this song, Mike says. You don't really, says Shooter. What's it called, Mike says. Drops of Jupiter, by Train. I'm gonna get the CD, Mike threatens. That's a little extreme, Shooter says. So you know what? We all need that guy in our life sometimes who's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Totally.
You're going to hear Bittersweet Symphony on the radio every hour for the rest of your life. You don't have to go buy the CD.
That's a good point. Good point. Thanks, Shooter.
Yeah. What a straight shooter he is.
Oh, man, yeah. He's doing finger guns throughout the entire book, too. So...
It's a weird moment. Like, so he's revealed ostentatiously, casually, 2/3 of the way through to be a black dude, and it's just never been mentioned before. And it's, I don't know. Were you guys struck by that moment? Did it?
I'm gonna say it slipped right by me because in my mind, Shooter looked exactly like the character Shooter from the Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, Shooter McGavin?
Yeah, that's who he was in my mind.
Shit, you know, it's odd that every piece of media, including Drops of Jupiter by Train, that has been mentioned as we've been recording, has made me think, wow, I'd rather watch that than think about this book anymore. Yeah. Including Adam Sandler movies.
I'd even go so far as to say that commercial for televisions that was out last year that had Soul Sister, Hey Soul Sister in it, for some sort of 3D television, I'd rather watch that over and over again than read this book. So
yeah.
And who takes shot at Aretha Franklin? Like
an asshole.
I found that in this. Like, yeah, there's this whole set piece where Shooter and Tom are taking shots at Aretha. For God's sake.
Yeah, don't do that.
No. Anyway.
All right, let's go ahead and go to break, and then we will come back and talk about things that are not this book. So we'll be right back.
She had dumps like a truck. Thighs like what? Baby, move your butt. I think I'll sing it again. She had dumps like a truck. Thighs like what? All night long. Let me see that thong. Baby, that thong. I like it when the beat goes.
All right, welcome back. No more Love Monkey. It's done. Fuck.
Yay.
So we're gonna kind of close things out here by attempting to salvage some positive feelings by recommending things that are not this book. I guess I will go first because I'm being pointed at. And I'm just gonna say this has nothing to do with books or anything else, and it's kind of a vague recommendation, but it would just be, go to a show, go see music that you like. I recently got a chance to see a band I have been listening to for a long time called Reviver perform live, and it was just one of the best moments that I've had in a long time, just kind of seeing people having fun playing music that I enjoy, and I feel like it's something that I forgot how powerful it can be. So if you haven't been out of the house to see live music in a long time, go see a show. It will do good for your soul. And that is my vague recommendation. Hopefully I don't sound too much like the narrator of that book. So.
No, because you're being generous with your recommendation, and you're like not saying like, and you should only listen to these artists because they're the only ones who actually speak truth, you know? Like you said, go to a show.
Yeah, that's true.
You were not being prescriptive about taste. So you're okay.
Yeah. Make sure it's underground, man.
and know the difference between two different Beach Boys songs, or GTFO.
Yeah,
right.
Seriously. Maura, how about you?
Well, I have been sort of awash in new music because one of my duties as a freelance writer who writes about music is that I have been putting together this weekly roundup of new releases. And I got to give it up for the Australian psych band known as King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, who just put out their fourth record of 2017 this week.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And like they're all they're like this one so this one, and the name is really hard for me to pronounce, so I'm going to read it off of a screen, but it's called Polygonwanaland. So this record is kind of a synthesis of like the other 3 albums that they put out this year. The first one, Flying Microtonal Banana, which is all the guitars, which there are a lot of, are tuned in microtone. The second record was called Murder of the Universe, and it's this like extended prog rock opera about essentially man's desire to consume and also vomit all over itself. And then the third one is Sketches of Brunswick East, which is like kind of more laid back and chill and really leans into their kind of like psych pop tendencies. And then Polygonwanaland is the one that just came out in November, and it sort of synthesizes the ideas from those 3 records. And actually they're doing a thing where they're distributing it for free. You can download vinyl masters of it and CD masters of it, and then they're letting people like sell the record. If you want to press it and sell it, they're letting people do that. They're doing like some crazy Creative Commons stuff, which, I mean, I guess when you put out like a 4th record of a year, you know, you can probably like have a little bit of wiggle room as far as like money that you make off of it, but it's still like a really great record. And I just think that they're one of the most interesting bands out there because they're always trying to figure out ways to like fuck with their formula. And so they're my kind of musical MVPs of 2017. Sure.
Yeah, I also think this is pure speculation, or man-facting, as it's frequently called. I wonder if there's not some like really powerful Australian arts grant program for bands, because a friend of mine met Blank Realm, who are another kind of Australian sort of psych band, and he met them at a show and was trying to give them money for their record, and they were like, "Nah, man, just take it. You came to the show."
Yeah.
You know, so I think the economics, I'm extrapolating from 2 data points here, but I think the economics of making music in Australia might be less hostile and impossible than the economics of making music in America.
Well, and also I think in Australia, like the expectation to like turn your debut 7-inch into like best new music on Pitchfork and like a Red Bull ad is not as extreme. So.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Also, I don't know if you've ever been there, but like it's fucking kangaroos.
Oh, I want to go so badly.
It's like wall to wall kangaroos.
They're all in bands too.
And they're all in boxing gloves and in bands.
Yeah. I like Alex Cameron. He's Australian.
Yeah.
Force Witness is one of my records of the year, so I guess that's a recommendation too.
Cool.
All right, Collision.
Yeah, I think I'll keep it. I mean, we're with pop maven superstar Maura Johnston, so I think I'll keep it poppy. It's been a weird year for new music for me. Like I feel like my discovery engine completely broke somewhere around February and is only sort of barely starting to come back online. The best thing I've heard yet this year is predictably about 20 years old. I went and saw Courtney Barnett and Kurt Vile, and the show was pretty good, but there were 2 songs that absolutely floored me. And of course, those turned out to be covers, as my girlfriend patiently explained to me later in the night. And the best one was called Elvis Presley Blues which is the best song I've heard this year, and I'll put up a little link to it, and it's just fucking great, regardless of who's doing it. There's even, as I discovered trying to find it, a Jimmy Buffett cover. I doubt that one's would be my especial favorite.
It might be the best one if, say, you're out on a boat.
Yeah,
maybe grilling some shrimp.
But I've got a something of a soft spot for old JB anyway, and I think that the song itself is just untouchably great. So that'd be my main recommendation, is listen to that song, and my secondary recommendation would just be like, I don't know, keep your eyes and ears open. Something Ted Leo said the other night was something like, your world gets bigger and better when you open it up, and it's true. And I've got to do a better job of like letting new shit in.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. A man cannot subsist on OK Computer and Bob Dylan alone.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, for somebody who always was like so like patting himself on the back about, the music taste that he had, like everything that he liked was pretty much set in stone as capital G good by like, a billion other people years before him. Anyway, sorry, not to get back to the book. But I do think that opening your like mind and ears to new things does benefit. I think that also it's really difficult right now because I feel like the pressures of every publication to scale are really sort of paramount and in the minds of editors and the people who pay those editors money. And it makes breaking through for bands really, really difficult. And I feel like music is kind of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to digital media. And so, I feel like I've been watching the kind of like post-pivoting to video shakeout that's might be happening right now, like up close for the last X number of years, because music is always so diffuse, and especially in the recent years, it's become very much more, not even 99.1, more like 99.9 and 0.1 percentages, where the winners and losers, and I say that in a traffic way, are split. And it's just it's really tough, and it's tough to break, to sort of like break through the chaos and the clutter, especially now with the news being the way it is. But there has been just so much good music this year, and I feel like I can make a little bit of difference just by talking about it with people in public and in private, then at least, it's better than just talking about whatever bullshit news story is making Twitter mad now. Excuse me.
Well, and I do, before we go, I do want to heartily second and third all of that. And I also want to make sure that it does not get lost in, the static that you began that by frankly calling Tom Farrell and his taste what I would call basic AF.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
So let's not lose sight of that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to kind of keep in line with that, if people do want to keep in touch with what you're talking about and what you're doing, how would they do that on this old internet of ours?
Probably the best way to do that right now is Twitter, which I have the @Maura handle because I got a tip from a friend back in 2006 to sign up for this new service. It was really hard to use because it was before I had a smartphone. And it was really, I was like, why am I getting all these texts from these people? But then it obviously got easier to sort of have as an ambient irritant instead of a constant one. But yeah, that's probably the best like public way to keep up with what I'm doing now. I am on hiatus from my radio show at Boston College, but there's going to be a lot of end of year action coming up in various places. And because I'm a freelancer, I kind of have to just put them all out through my social media.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
Cool.
I think we and everyone listening, if you're not looking forward to it, well, that's a bummer for you.
Oh,
Yep.
thanks.
But thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This is always such a delight. I always have a great time talking to you.
All right, so I believe we've got a lot of letters.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E, letter F, letter G, letter, got a lot of letters.
Yeah.
All right. This time it is shockingly, almost appallingly exciting because we have hard copy letters. Physical letters is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, if you're a digital letter sender,
Packages.
we appreciate yours, and we'll get back to them soon, but we've got some packages to open, and that's exciting. So
Exactly.
bear with us this time around.
So this first one is from Sarah, fake last name. And Jay, what would you describe this form factor like?
It looks like a record.
Oh, well, let us see. Ahoy hoy, IDEO TV. A little something for your walls. Jay, you've mentioned you're a horror fan, so I hope that means you're also a Boris Karloff fan.
Of course.
If not, please mention it in an episode so I can unsubscribe immediately. Does sarcasm convey in text? Probably not. My copy of this gem came from a thrift store years ago. Bought it instantly, as I too am a sad, weird, mid-century puddle duck. Keep up the great work, Sarah. And what we have here is...
Whoa. Boris Karloff reads The Ugly Duckling and Other Tales, and it's a 12-inch. And I'm so excited to listen to this as soon as we go off the air. That's amazing.
And oh my God, just the cover art is
Yeah.
gorgeous and sad.
We'll put a picture of this up in the group for sure because, wow. Everything about this. I'm so stoked. Thank you.
Yeah. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah.
And as the unboxing ceremony continues, I believe we have one more.
Yes, we do. And this one is from, this is breaking format a tiny bit. This is not from a fake last name. Mm-hmm. This is from Dan Beckner.
Okay.
And he sent us a shocking care package here that goes like this. C&J, I'm sorry. I had to. Hope the 7-inch lessens the blow from this stack o' crap. Much love from the frozen north. And then a Latin phrase that I don't know, and I'm going to attempt to pronounce. Apologies to my high school Latin teacher, Magister Thompson. My pronunciation used to be pretty good. I hope you're not listening now. Cancrorum equiti forti en perpetuatum. So, I don't know what that means. I hope I didn't just...
The last part means like forever.
Right. So I'm gonna guess that this is Ride the Crab Forever.
Okay. That sounds good.
Just be my guess. I hope I did not just speak the mystic syllables that open the gate.
Oh no. There's a giant crab with a knife outside.
So the 7-inch is a Screamers 7-inch, who are an extremely legendary West Coast kind of first wave, really, punk band.
Yeah, like Sonic's era.
Yeah. So this was recorded at the Mask from Los Angeles, December 78, and that is shockingly exciting. Thank you so much. Definitely don't deserve that. So the first book in here, wonderful cover called Urschurak, created by the brothers Hildebrandt and Jerry Nichols.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, this cover is great. There's some buxom Valkyrie warrior babes, and a Wonder Woman babe, and some dwarves with axes. This looks like everything I want in a book. Oh, my gosh. There's ample illustrations, including some full-color plates.
Yes! Full-color plates. Oh, my God.
And, I mean, these are, like, should be painted on the side of a van. The one I'm looking at right now, there's a mage summoning some fire in front of a crescent moon. Oh, man, there's like a Roger Dean landscape in here. This is good stuff.
That's dope.
I'm already so stoked. Thank you, Dan.
And then we've got something that I actually happen to know he found in a green room because he sent me a text about it.
This is awesome. This came from backstage at some venue.
Yeah. And it is called, well, Jay, I'm going to need you to read this.
The Girl's Guide to Werewolves. All you need to know about the original Untamed Bad Boys. By Bard Karg.
So, yeah.
Author of The Girl's Guide to Vampires.
Wow. Gee, I wonder if there was some kind of brief craze that this writer was attempting to cash in upon.
Wait, does this also have full color plates? No, it's just very, very like well thumbed through. Whoever left this book in the green room like was doing some research. It's like probably guys in their late 30s who had been doing like contemporary rock music and decided like they're decided their path to stardom was to become a werewolf-themed band, but first wanted to find out what teen girls found appealing.
Yeah. Interesting. If I think of it, I'll try to dig it up again. I skimmed a very interesting little piece about why werewolves came to be coded as exclusively male and when that happened. So I'll see if I can find that and put it in the show notes. And then the last thing, and content warnings, disability-related slur on this one. This is a book by somebody called Sean Costello. The book is called Captain Quad.
Oh, no.
And the tagline is, paralyzed for life, he possessed an evil stronger than death. And it features what's supposed to be a malevolent, but really just kind of looks like a sulky metalhead with haircut basically like mine, with a demon on his t-shirt like mine, black jeans like mine, but he's in a wheelchair glaring.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Everything about this is questionable.
Yeah. So it looks like, I'm just going to read the back of the book because wow.
Okay. This exists.
You can see this. I'm holding this in my hand.
Yeah. And this is like professionally bound. This is not like someone's self-published like Kindle novel. This is something that someone released in the 90s. It looks like on a real publisher.
Pocket Books.
Oh, God.
1991. Dedicated to
Stephen King.
This one's for my mom, Mary Elizabeth.
Oh.
Athlete, scholar, pilot, musical prodigy, young Peter Gardner had everything to live for until a tragic motorcycle accident left him a quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. Trapped in a hospital bed, now he had nothing left to do but to go slowly, unalterably mad. As months stretched into years, the rage grew inside him. It was a rage directed indiscriminately against those who loved him and those who did not. Yep, that's what indiscriminately means. And with the rage came a power to leave his immobilized body at will, a power to wreak a terrifying vengeance, a power only the gods or the devil could know. Against his lover, against his family, against friends and strangers, Peter Gardner unleashed his deadly fury. And in all of heaven and in all of hell, there was no defense against it.
Well, now I kind of want to read it.
This is described as a chilling novel by Sean Costello, a practicing physician, and it is said to keep us enthralled to the last electrifying page.
Electrifying. I bet you that's some foreshadowing there.
Ooh, like that movie Shocker. I think it was called Shocker.
Yeah,
right?
the one about the electric chair. And
yeah. I wanted to like that movie.
I don't remember much about it except for the posters really frightened me when I was a kid.
The poster, I think, was the best thing about that movie. Second best was probably the soundtrack. Anyway, Dan, Jesus, we're not worthy. We don't deserve this.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to look through the Girl's Guide of Werewolves and figure out the right way to do my facial hair.
Get one haircut a month? I'm not at the full moon? I don't know. That's good. Anyway, so those are some letters. Thank you all so very much. If you'd like to send us letters, you can do so electronically at idon'tevenownaTelevision@gmail.com. I think our Twitter DMs are open at IDEOTVpod. We have recently unlocked the key to the Facebook kingdom in a way that I don't understand, but I'm very excited about. So you can find us on Facebook at I Don't Even Own a Television, and then it's slightly easier to find the Facebook group, the Fun Time Party Pit.
Yes, they're linked together now. So if you find our page, there should be a link right there that will take you to the discussion group if you want to join it. Yeah, so stay in touch.
And if you don't want to join it, what? You don't want to talk about crabs and riding? And
There's a lot of talking about crabs lately.
But it's a lot of fun talking about crabs with y'all. And the more the merrier is what we always say. Speaking of which, if you like the show, tell a friend. Tie them down. Force them to listen to it. Force them to listen to it until they agree to subscribe to it.
Yeah.
We'd really appreciate it.
If you have a political prisoner, subject them to it at a high volume. That was horrible. Okay.
This is not a coup. This is your chance to listen to a new podcast.
And to ride the crab.